Hello everyone, we're here at Authors Night. I'm your host, Karen Foley. We're in the Calabasas Library with our Media Operations Department and our two guests for today's session, Rabbi Paul Kipnes and his wife, Michelle Xovember. Rabbi Kipnes is the rabbi at Temple Or Ami on Los Virgenes Road and what's the Muro Road. And Miss Xovember, how do you like to be addressed?
Michelle.
Michelle is the Director of Missions at the Toledo High School, the second largest Jewish high school in the country. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you both for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here with you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. The book today, Jewish Spiritual Parenting. It's a wisdom book of activities and rituals, prayers for raising children with spiritual balance and emotional wholeness. And actually, coming from a mixed family, I find that it's for people of all faiths and children of all ages, including adults. It's actually, what would you say, a framework for family understanding?
If you imagine that raising kids come without an instruction book.
That they do.
So we have to figure out a way to raise them, nurture them, and make them into the best young people and adults they can be. It's a framework, their activities. It's a way of trying to help parents be the best they can be.
Did I mention that you two were married? Perhaps I forgot that. Okay.
26 years.
26 years. And you have how many children?
We have 3 children. They are now ages 19, 22, and 24.
Still
So,
challenging.
Challenging in different ways.
Yes.
Still growing.
Still growing.
Parenting never ends, it just
no, I'm
evolves.
afraid not. No, it does not. And you wrote the book together.
Yes, we did. We wrote a lot of it on an iPhone traveling up and down the coast in California. We talk, I type it into my iPhone, we edit it together. We've been working together, editing and writing for years. Michelle is my best and sharpest editor of my sermons.
Really?
Yeah. A joy and a challenge sometimes.
But the whole book was like a kind of a roadmap on how to approach your children and what to say in an unchallenging way.
We wanted it to be accessible. We wanted people to pick it up and find some wisdom that spoke to them from our Jewish tradition, from things that we have discovered along our journey, and be able to see themselves in it and see their family in it.
How do they feel about having this book written about them?
Oh, our kids?
Yes.
Each one of them was able to read it and vet things and yay or nay. And at the end, before we sent it off to the publisher, we had their blessings.
Oh, that's good.
In fact, one of the last things we did was go through and make sure each child was mentioned exactly the same number of times, so there'd be no issues later.
Unfortunately, that's a very smart thing to do because they count.
And I want to say on camera that it was very easy because they're all equal in our eyes in their wonder. Did you hear that, kids?
All
That's the
equal.
reality.
Each kid, there's a cartoon in one of the books on pets. There are all these little puppies, about 6 in a row, exactly alike. And the mother looks over to her little puppies and says, "I love you all the same. You're all the same cute," or something like that. Like everyone's the same. Do you think that people can be spiritual without practicing a religion?
So in the book, one of the first chapters is about ruchaniyut, which means spirituality. You can be spiritual and religious, spiritual or religious, both or neither. Spirituality is really about connecting to something greater, something deeper, something beyond ourselves. And so for many people, including myself, that includes connecting to God. But for others, it's about community, it's about existence, it's about our values, it's about connecting into the world. I think some people think there's an energy that surrounds everything, and connecting into that, that's their spirituality.
When did you decide, and how did you decide to become a rabbi?
So when I was 9 years old, there's a holiday called Purim. when we dress up. And so I wore my dad's white bathrobe and his white tallis, the prayer shawl, and a kippah, a yarmulke, and I had a Bible. And I was Mordecai, the hero of the story of Queen Esther. But everybody came up to me and said, "Paul, you're a rabbi, right?" And from that point on, that was always in my mind. And I met rabbis at the Jewish summer camps. We went to Kutz Camp out in New York. Michelle went to Camp Swig out here. We met rabbis who were connected into life, to social justice, to nurturing people. And I realized I wanted to do that, help people find the goodness and the meaning in life. And ever since I became a rabbi, that's been my goal and dream. And this book, for Michelle and I, is just an extension of that.
Now, Michelle, you have a Master's of Science in Social Work. What led you to that field, and what do you specialize in?
I've always worked in the Jewish community ever since I got my degree. I wanted to elevate, first students, college students was the population that I worked with. We brought Judaism to campus, Reform Judaism in particular, so that students could celebrate being Jewish on college campuses. And from there, I worked at a synagogue, Stephen Weiss Temple, for many years as the program director, worked with various ages from youth through seniors, singles, Havurah groups, where we bring people together to build smaller communities within the larger community. And then the last 9 years I've been at what was New Community Jewish High School and is now De Toledo High School. So I bring 8th graders, 9th graders into our school through the world of admissions. I'm a connector, I think. I connect Jews with their community. Wherever they start, I bring them in.
So you say your book also is kind of a partnership. You bring everybody in. And you say parenting is a partnership. What do you mean by that? Give me some examples.
Using Michelle and I just as a beginning, we've come to realize that neither of us have a claim on all the truth, on the exact way to deal with each situation. When the kids were younger, Michelle had much more wisdom about how to raise them than I did. As the kids became teenagers, I had more of a comfort in that area. Now we're sort of trying to fumble our way through.
Muddling through.
And so once we recognized that neither of us had all of the truth, knew exactly how to deal with each issue, we stepped back, did what we call in Judaism tzimtzum, this sense of pulling back and being able to allow the other to have some wisdom, we had some wisdom, and work it together. But partnership could also be blended families, or where you have, in the case of a separation or divorce, you have two parents who aren't living together but need to help ideally raise the children together. It could be a single parent who actually partners, often with friends, sometimes with grandparents, sometimes with other people in the community. Sometimes it's just that person and God. Sometimes partnership is about foster parents or grandparents raising their kids. Or now we have parents raising kids who were birthed by others, and multiple formats, multiple structures. It's recognizing that there's so much wisdom out there to raising parents. Who are any of us to believe that we know it all?
But yet we have to present role models to them. It never failed to amaze me once when I had my sister-in-law very upset at one of the stars that live out in Calabasas and the way they were conducting themselves, a singer. She said, "After all, this girl is a role model." And I said to myself, a celebrity singer is a role model for their children?
I think teachers and coaches can be really important role models.
Yes.
And clergy can be important role models. And I'm a believer in that it takes a village. Wherever you have somebody who has a moral compass and who really puts children first and has their best interest in mind, those are role models to me. And we need to partner with them. It's challenging raising kids today.
Oh, I would think so.
Most of us call friends, we read books, we call parents, grandparents, we when we have kids, we ask and try to bring together the best wisdom. I remember when I first became a rabbi, a solo rabbi here at Congregational RME, and these issues would come forward that I'd never dealt with before. So I would say, let me think about that. Then I would pick up the phone and call my mentor and say, how do I deal with this issue? And he would walk me through, help me figure out what was true to me. What we try to do with the book and what happened to us in our lives is we try to provide ways for parents to think about certain issues and to talk, when there's two parents in the family, to talk to each other, or sometimes three or more, to talk and think through what's really important to me, what's really important to you, and then negotiate between to try to find the right path to bringing the kids forward through any issue.
Yes, the people in charge, the parents, we hope they're in charge, certainly need to be together. And do you find it's hard for a role model to behave in the way they should be seen and make sure that by their actions, as much as what they say, that they're the role models, that they have to conduct themselves accordingly?
Right. I think actions speak louder than words. And I think everybody makes mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that Paul is good at is saying, I'm sorry, I messed up. That's not easy to do. And I think it's okay for parents to do that with their kids. I'm sorry. I wish I had done it this way. Let's try again. Let's regroup. Let's start over. I think that's that's humbling. That's showing that you're authentic. You're yourself.
And it's erasing any fear they may have of coming to you again.
Exactly. I think it gives them permission also to mess up and know that we'll still be there for them.
We live in a world today where everybody's supposed to be perfect. But we do want to recognize that life is a journey, and there are peaks and there are valleys. And sometimes we mess up big time. And so we teach our children through our mistakes and through our willingness to own up and work through them that we're human, they're human, and we can find goodness even through those mistakes.
It's hard to admit one is wrong.
It's hard to admit it. That's true. And there's ego involved in all of it.
Now, how do you open up channels for face-to-face communications in an online world? The kids communicate with us via the internet.
Absolutely, as did ours, and we still do. However, when the kids were young, we tried a few things, actually just happened upon a couple of things that worked really well. One was when Starbucks created their Frappuccinos, and our kids love those Frappuccinos. Decaf, but all that sugar and all that fun stuff.
Oh, I love the Frappuccinos.
Yeah. So we started taking walks with one child or maybe two, to go get a Frappuccino, phones left at home, and along the way, the conversation was really interesting. When the kids just thought we were just having a comfortable, casual conversation, they would talk about the things that they love. They would share with us some of the things that they were concerned about. And so we started calling them, or in our book we call them Frap and Chat. This turned out to be a really nice way to converse with the kids.
And once Michelle was doing that, we got the idea the boys particularly like to toss a Frisbee. And so we used to go down, particularly when there were challenging things going on in the family or with the kids in their lives, we would go down to the beach, Santa Monica, Malibu, and the boys and I would toss a Frisbee. And we'd walk and toss, and it looked like we were just playing Frisbee. But as they got close, we toss and we talk about various things. When the conversation got a little intense, I'd throw the Frisbee far, they'd have to run after it, and it sort of mellowed everything out until we could get back to our equilibrium. And as you talk about parenting, I learned that from Michelle. It was her suggestion, and it worked really well.
We figured out that conversation like this was not necessarily what preteens and teenagers wanted. An activity with conversation alongside it worked a lot better for us.
It's like when you drive in a car with younger kids or even teenagers in the car, particularly when they're in the back seat. You don't make as parents, we don't make eye contact. Let them, if they're with friends, let them talk with their friends. If we can throw out an easy question, have them talk, maybe throw out a little harder one, but as long as we're not looking at each other and we're both looking straight ahead, if we're in the front seat or they're in the back, they reveal much more than if we ask them questions directly.
What about when some of their friends approach you? Do you feel that they do it more frequently because you're professionally involved in those kinds of things, or that you're the rabbi? Think about that for a moment, and we'll come back after a short break. And thank you, people, for sticking with us at Authors Night.
To stop pretending we have plenty of water. Los Angeles is in a drought, but there are ways you can help. Replacing lawns with rain gardens and California-friendly plants is just one of many solutions. For more info on conserving water and saving energy, please visit LADWP and the Bay Foundation online.
Hello, everybody. We're back with our authors today, Rabbi Paul and his wife, Michelle Xovember, and the book Jewish Spiritual Parenting. We were just discussing the fact that your children's friends, do they feel more comfortable or more intimidated by coming to you, both of you who are in the field of helping?
When the kids were really young, and they went to nursery school and then kindergarten at the temples we worked at, they thought we were brilliant. Particularly my son, one of my boys would say, "My dad knows everything."
Wow.
Little did they know later on that I don't know everything, and they learned that pretty quickly. As parents, we know what we know. We learn. Their friends, even through high school, would come. Sometimes at the temple they'd talk to me, and that's with rabbinic confidentiality. I think kids like to have other adults that they can talk to that are safe, but not their parents. Our kids dear friends of ours were the second parents to our kids, and they would tell them things that the kids would never tell us. And we trusted them with that confidence to help take care of our kids.
And you keep the confidence
Of course.
and never go to the other parents unless you think it's something dangerous or
Exactly.
serious.
Exactly.
Dangerous, someone's going to get hurt, someone's
Yeah.
doing something that's going to get them into big trouble. And we more than likely try to get the kids to talk to their parents themselves. That's the ideal.
Now, I was wondering, you were a great proponent in the book about multi-generational interaction amongst families and their contributions.
We are very fortunate in our family. We each have two healthy living parents, and so our kids have benefited from having four grandparents. My parents live right nearby in Woodland Hills, and so they are very much a part of our kids' lives. My kids felt like their home was their second home, slept over. They're very hands-on. And Paul's parents live in Massachusetts and have an equally close relationship with our kids, but via long distance.
My dad, from the moment the kids could be up against the telephone, this is before there was FaceTime, before Skype, my dad and my mom too would just talk to them and babble and taught them how to say Papa and how to say Lala, which is what we called my mom, and would have conversations with them. And then after they would come out, when they went home, they'd continue those. Our kids developed very close relationships with their grandparents because of it. When our parents came out, we were fortunate they would stay with the kids, sometimes overnight, sometimes for a couple of hours. Michelle's parents also. Grandparents have a fantastic ability to teach great values to their grandkids because they're not encumbered, most of them, with the responsibility of day-to-day raising their children. As my folks say, the reason I raised you is so I could have grandchildren and enjoy spoiling them and also teaching them. And so grandparents, with permission of the parents, very important that that's negotiated out ahead of time, grandparents have the ability to expand the horizons of their grandchildren and share deep, abiding lessons about values, about family history, creating memories. Our kids would not be the fantastic people we think they are if it weren't for the 4 grandparents in their lives.
So we built that into our Passover Seder and different holiday celebrations, where we actually do some probing and asking the grandparents to share stories about their childhood, to think back and to talk about what was important to them then, what some of their challenges were. For Passover especially, what were the plagues of the time? What did they have to overcome? And what Judaism has meant to them at different stages of their lives. And it's great for the kids. It's hard for them to imagine that these grandparents were once young. And so it's important for them to know what those struggles were, what their dreams were, some realized, some not realized, what left turns they took in their life, and how they have managed overcome many obstacles.
There's a notion of l'dor vador, from generation to generation, that grandparents have the ability to pass on ideas and truths to their kids that parents can't. Sometimes we parents our kids think we just don't have a clue about life. Sometimes they think we're a little nerdy. But grandparents, because they're not struggling to be in that same level of parenthood with the grandchildren, because grandparents don't have the responsibility of being with their grandchildren day to day, some do, but many don't, they have the ability to take them places, to walk with them, to bring a fresh set of eyes to any situation or problem. There were times that Michelle's mom was able to help our kids unlock challenges they were going through in school or in life that Michelle and I weren't able to. There were times that my mother on the other coast was able to help our daughter open up a challenging issue that was going on in her life. That's the beauty of grandparents. And if you don't have grandparents, or if grandparents aren't the right relationship in the family for a certain reason, there are always other older adults in the community that people can adopt as their own.
I guess that's the pleasure and the joy and the fulfillment of being involved in a congregation of any religious denomination.
Mm-hmm.
All the resources in just human nature and the different personalities around you, and those who you can learn from and you can also teach. One thing that seemed to be important in your book that I noticed was the care for the body as well as the mind.
So we're yoga practitioners.
Both of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
She got me into it. And best thing I've done.
And yoga has taught me so much. It's not only for the physical benefits, but also the spiritual piece. And, most classes, all classes that I attend start with a meditation, a focus, and a setting of an intention. So what I learned about yoga was that we can set intentions in our life. In yoga, we say, this is our intention for this hour. I'm going to put everything aside, and I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to regain my balance, and I'm going to restore myself. But we can do that with our day too, and we can teach our kids to do it. So they can set an intention for their day. How do they want their school day to go? What is the outcome that they're looking for? What's their goal? And maybe it's just, I just want to go have fun. I want to relax. I want to be with my friends. We integrated exercise into our family life by going on family hikes, or I would bring the kids with me to yoga and swimming, and what else did we do?
We'd just go move around. I grew up as a couch potato. My parents wanted me to do differently. In fact, whenever there were stresses in my life, my mom would tell me to go out and run around or exercise, and I generally ignored it. And then I married this wonderful woman who, when there was stress in my life, she would tell me to get on the treadmill or go for a walk. And then once Michelle introduced me to yoga, it helped me get some of the nervous energy or the stressful energy out of my body and out of my mind. Our kids have discovered the same thing. And one of the great gifts that parents can give their kids is the sense of moving around. That sometimes when you're dealing with challenging issues or you have too much homework, take a little break and move around. Run around, exercise. One of our favorite TV shows has people dancing through problems. Turn on some music and dance through it. And life is a little easier.
The boys would go outside and shoot hoops or toss a baseball. And now in college and beyond, actually in college they both played ultimate frisbee, which is a lot of exercise.
Well, you started the Frisbee.
That's right. So then they played in college, and it's great for them because they run off all that energy, all those endorphins are released. They feel good about themselves, they feel relaxed, and they can go back to their studies.
And we live in a world where what we look like seems to take on such importance. And yet, we want to teach our kids, it's not what they look like on the outside, but who they are on the inside. I'm less interested in my children becoming A+ students than to become, as we teach at D. Toledo High School, that they should become A+ human beings. And so, if we can get them to love themselves as they are, and not get caught up in all we see in the movies, on TV,
The conformity
in
of
the
everything.
conformity, because the standards of beauty have changed. And yet, when I stand up on the bima, the stage, with a 13-year-old becoming bar bat mitzvah, I tell each one, I look at them in the eye and ask them, do you know what beauty is? And they all describe those things they see in the movie, and I say, nah, that's advertising. Beauty is this, and I circle their face. And I point to them, I said, that's beauty. And my hope is, as you move into adulthood, that you'll figure out that you are as beautiful as I see you are, and as your parents see you are.
In your book, you mention so many aspects, so many times where you enforce saying, I love you to your child.
We both believe words matter, and we would say I love you to our kids all at different times of the day. Now we text them, I love you, and they text us back, I love you. I'll get this morning, good morning, Mom, happy Monday, Mom, I love you, in a text. So you kind of get back what you send out there, and we're big huggers. Whenever anybody leaves, whenever we fly now, the 5 of us, and the kids are taking their own flights, we always text to a 5-way text called the 5 of us, taking off now, I love you all. And then when we landed. So we like to touch base. We like to make sure that each other knows many times during the week or during the day how much we love each other.
In a world that tells us so many times how we're not good enough, how we don't rise up to the standards of others, in a world of celebrity, in a world in this area of comfort and significant levels of wealth, people are always trying to keep up with the Joneses, or the Steins, or the Schwartzes, or the Mohammeds, or whomever. And when you have that standard, and it's hard to make it, who's going to tell the kids that they're worth it, that they are valuable, that they are loved? Every person, no matter who they are, where they live, where their background is, their gender, their sex, their religious background, all of us are valuable, worthy, and loved. It starts with parents telling them, I love you. And hearing parents say to each other, I love you. I love you.
I love you.
Do you deal a lot with interfaith marriages now? And as you mentioned before, less conventional marriages that maybe you grew up with, and certainly that I grew up with.
If you look I know Reform Jewish synagogues, so I know the Jewish world. But if you look in Reform and even conservative Jewish synagogues today, you'll find that about 25 to 30% minimum of the households connected are part of an interfaith family. They may have decided to raise the kids Jewish, but one of the parents was not raised Jewish. I think we'd find the same thing in Christian homes, Muslim homes, and in all sorts of faiths. It adds to the diversity. It just is. So we celebrate it. We embrace those who want to create a Jewish home, create a Jewish life. We make no judgments about what you do in your home in terms of religious things, but embrace you and try to celebrate. One year on Yom Kippur, actually I've done it a couple of times, we call up all the non-Jewish spouses and partners and significant others up onto the stage on the holiest day of the year to thank them and bless them for raising their kids Jewish. But I also should say that a large part of our congregation and other congregations are individuals and couples whose orientation are either they're gay, lesbian, bisexual. We have some transgender young people in our schools and in our camps and in our synagogues. So if you discover you're gay or you're lesbian, or you were born in one body and recognize you're something else, we embrace you. You're part of, in our case, the Jewish people, or part of the human race. And once we can embrace that more than categorizing people as you're not this or not that, life's going to be a lot better and we're all going to be a lot happier.
Let's hold that thought and get back in a moment. Thank you.
Where is this guy? So thirsty.
I hear he travels from the north.
Look!
That one's really dry.
LA is in a drought, yet over half of our drinking water is being used for landscaping. But it doesn't have to be that way. Just 1 inch of rain can yield thousands of gallons of water for use in landscaping and saves drinking water for drinking. Rain barrels, cisterns, and curb cuts are just a few ways to save water and energy. For more, visit LADWP and the Bay Foundation online.
We're back with Author's Night with Rabbi Paul and his wife Michelle Xovember. And I was very impressed in your book the way you treat each person, regardless of age, the littlest person, all up with respect. Not just love, but with respect, and there's a difference.
Love means I hold you close. Respect means who you are is worthwhile, is valuable, is good. You're important. We want our kids, all kids, and all adults too, to recognize that no matter what our abilities, each person is exceptional. In our congregation, actually in our families too, we embrace people with special needs. People who used to be on the sidelines, but we recognize that everybody has their uniquenesses and everybody has their gift that they bring to the conversation and to the community.
Each one of us worked at summer camps for many years. Bunks full of campers with all kinds of differences, personalities, character traits, and challenges. And I think we both learned early on how beautiful each child could be with their own special contribution. And now, working in admissions, I meet hundreds of 8th graders each year, and I see each has his own gift, has his own passion, what he or she loves to do, and what he or she's concerned about in the world. So I ask kids, what is it that they want to contribute to the world? What is it that worries them? And what is it that makes them feel important? And they answer, respect is a big thing. I want to be respected for how I learn, who I am, what I believe in.
One of the most profound lessons of my rabbinate was when you reminded me once that my job is to lift people up and to respect each person where they are. And I remember working with some people who were challenged to me. And once I realized that piece of wisdom from Michelle, all of a sudden, I didn't have to fix you. Just like most of the time, we don't have to fix our kids or our parents. We have to respect them for their unique collection of traits and skills and interests, and help every person blossom into the best they can be. And when we do that, wow, they soar. It's gorgeous.
And our kids are very different. Each one learned differently. Each one was drawn toward different subjects and activities. And so we learned from them. We learned to meet them where they were at.
And those weren't always the activities or the subjects that we wanted them to be focused on. And part of parenting, it seems to them, is learning how to pull back and let the people be who they are.
Any one of your children following your path or your path?
Not yet, not now. They're just sort of carving out their own paths, but no one's going to rabbinical school right now.
No, but one of them is in helping professions and teaching professions, which is coming out of our interests. One of them is very involved in technology and sales, which is some of what we do. We're trying to sell a Jewish way of life to people. And the third of the three is still exploring, and we're doing that too. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be? Is anyone going to grow up and be a rabbi? It would be a blessing, but I'd leave it up to them. No pressure, kids.
Are they married? Are they single? Have families?
Everyone's still single.
24, still young.
Decision making. How do you help people through a decision when it's the best for them, but it may not be what you would like for them to do? I mean, how do you guide them?
I usually leave the room and let Michelle handle that one.
I think the challenge is to do a lot of listening, asking open-ended questions, and then listening and letting it all sort of sink in before offering too much, and certainly withholding as much judgment as possible. Again, we go with is this harmful? Is this going to be harmful to them? Or is this a safe decision, whether they choose this path or that path? And I think, one of the challenges of young adulthood is beginning to own your decisions and to carve out your own journey. That's the exciting part. That, I would say, is the most exciting part of being an empty nester. The other part's sad because I miss them. But the exciting part is that they're grappling with their own decisions. And
it's okay to make mistakes, too.
It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes.
We also learned from Dr. Bruce Powell, who's the head of school at D. Toledo High School. Each year around summertime, just before summer, he asks the students to think about their actions over the summer. And whenever they are about to do something, to think a number of questions. Is it safe? Is it legal? Is it moral? And would you like your mother or your grandmother or your rabbi or your head of school to know? If the answer to those are yes, in many cases, the decision isn't a decision between right and wrong. If the answer is yes to those questions, it's a decision of preferences. And so we have to help our kids talk through and explore. And it's okay to let them make mistakes. What was that book, Dr. Wendy Mogul?
Blessing of a Skinny, or
Kid
Blessing
Falls-
of a B minus, both of her books.
Both
Yeah.
of those books are great books that remind parents, kids mess up. We don't have to rescue them. We just have to help them learn from their mistakes.
But in today's world of consumerism, how do you teach them the difference between need and want?
One of our children and I were walking through the mall. We were having a daddy-daughter day, okay? And so it was really early. She was about 7, 8, 9, and we were having a great time. We were skipping from store to store. There was a food shop open, so we were noshing a little bit. And all of a sudden, she looked across the way and saw something in the window and took off for it. So I ran after her. She says, Daddy, Daddy, buy me that, buy me that. I need that. I said, what do you need? I need that. Why? Everybody has it. My friend does and this one does. You got to get it for me. And I said, you need it or do you want it? She says, Daddy, I need it. We're having such a great day up till that point. And then we're locked in this battle between need and want. Me, the adult, and her, the 9-year-old. Now, it's not important at the end of that story who actually won out and whether
I was
she
going
got
to ask,
it or
did you
not.
buy it for her?
Yes, I did in that case, but don't. But what was important at that point is we realized that it's not natural for kids to feel or share a sense of gratitude, to have a sense of what they have is enough. We now, when our kids came to us now, say, I need it, we said, what does it mean that you need it? You can't live without it? Or you really want it? What are you willing to put in to help make sure you can have that? What are you willing to give up? There's only some parents now share the family budget in a general way. Say, this is how much we have to buy those things we want that we don't necessarily need. And the kids are involved in making choices.
Do they get involved in learning how to be charitable? How do you teach them charity? Which is an important part of growing up.
You know, we participated in a lot of walkathons. So that was a big way of being charitable. We would make a donation, but they would also raise money before they went on the walks. The summer camp they went to did an AIDS walk, and they did what's the other walk?
Walk to End Genocide.
Walk to End Genocide and
Pride.
the Pride Parade. So this was up in San Francisco. But the kids, you know, that's the action part. So there's money attached to it, but there's also action attached to it, where they raise awareness and then they feel an attachment to the topic.
And there were two other things we did. On Shabbat, just before the Sabbath began, we light 2 candles. We make a blessing over the wine or the grape juice. We bless a challah, a twisted, braided bread. But before all of that, we have a tzedakah box, a charity box on our table. And in the early days, we would give them coins to put in it. So part of our celebration of the Sabbath and celebration of being together was putting money in the tzedakah box. As they got older, everyone would bring their own, and we would do it. Now, on Hanukkah, there are 8 nights of Hanukkah, and so in some families, not ours, but in some families, they would give presents almost every night. We made sure there was one night where no one got any presents. It was tzedakah night. Everybody brought in some change, some money, and then we matched it and gave beyond that. And we would decide who we want to help this year. What kind of people, what kind of issues. And we would, now with the internet, in recent years, we'd go online and research an organization and make our donation just then. The other thing is that when they became bar bat mitzvah, they received all sorts of gifts, much of which was money. And we set out a percentage. 1/4 is to go off to college. 1/4 is for some long-term thing. Maybe it's to help purchase a car or something later on. 1/4 was to give to help other people, and 1/4 are for things that they wanted to do in the near term, maybe get a computer or whatever. So we taught them always that giving tzedakah, giving charity was important.
I think that's so important. Kids have so much, they don't realize that there's so many who have nothing.
Yeah.
I once said I had it by the end of the evening with my 2 grandsons that I have in this city, in this area. And I said something like, we're going to go back to your house. I got to get rid of you kids and put you to bed. Get rid of us? You can't get rid of us. I said, what do you mean? Donate, he said. When you get rid of something, you donate. Who are you going to donate us to?
That's a
And
great
I couldn't
question.
figure out what was going on. And I asked my daughter, and she said, well, every year we have the toys and the clothes that they no longer play with or wear, and they donate it to other children. And I thought, oh, that's what they meant. I couldn't understand why they didn't understand me and I didn't understand him. And I think that's such a valuable part of someone's life, learning the generosity, the spirit of generosity.
We have an annual child spree where the families from Oremy take children who are lacking in clothing and toys and those kinds of things, take them to a department store, and our kids can participate. Children can take other children around and help them pick out things that they want, and then they get to see what it feels like to be generous, and also how much our kids do have. They can appreciate what they do have.
Did you teach your children to work for what they wanted to? Did they have jobs when they were younger?
Somewhat.
Sort of. They helped at temple. They helped in the religious school.
That's a job.
That is a job.
And they did work. I was working when I was from 10 years old, helping around in my dad's office, and then when I became old enough to work, I really had a job. Our kids were so involved in the youth movement.
That's important, to
traveling
be
and
involved in
learning.
something other than their own wants and needs.
I do believe that children should work, and once they got to college, they were all expected to earn a certain amount of money to help pay for their incidentals if they wanted to go to parties. We make them buy their own books at college, because then they will value what they get, they will read them, and then they will sell them back
Yes.
to get more money.
And take care of them.
And take care of them. And 2 of our kids have full-time jobs now. So
They pay their own car insurance.
Really?
They pay to fix their cars. They value the cars more and take care
Oh,
of them.
I believe in that. I believe in that. I really loved the way in your book, not only the way you told your children how much they're loved and the ways that you showed your respect, but you focused on living joyfully. And what do you mean by that?
I think we can find joy in very small moments, and life goes too quickly. We're just running around, and kids and adults are distracted by their phones. I think if you look up, you look at each other, you look up in the sky, you see a rainbow, there's a lot of joy to be found in very simple moments. So I was the one maybe in the car on a family trip who would say, okay, everybody put their phones down, look outside. Look at those clouds, or look at that sunset. That was the joy that I was pointing out.
We learn that we need to laugh. We're kind of serious people. I deal with all sorts of serious issues with people all the time in the rabbinate. But kids don't need to be weighed down with that in the same way. We used to take them on family mystery days. We'd wake them up in the morning and say, we're going, pack this or that, or we would have packed the bags the day before, and we would just take them somewhere. Sometimes it was to Disneyland, sometimes it was to the mystery spot in Santa Cruz. Sometimes it was just down to the beach. And it lent this sense of excitement, this sense that something was going on. Judaism has at least 14 words for joy. 14 different kinds and flavors of joy. And life is supposed to be filled with that joy. So there's a prayer called the Shehechianu. It's a blessing that thanks God for giving us life, keeping us in life, and bringing us to this moment. And it's a prayer that can be said at any first. The first time a holiday comes around, each birthday is a first. The first time they lose a tooth. The kids and I, when we jump in the pool for the first time during the spring or summer, we'd say Shehechianu. When they were up at bat the first time.
When they pass the driver's test, and then they drive off for the first time.
And then they come back, we said Shehechianu too,
Exactly.
thank God that they made
Right.
it back in one piece.
Right.
It's recognizing that there's such goodness and blessing in our world.
And so the kids will text us now a Shehechianu moment, a special moment that happened. Maybe they passed their statistics midterm in college, or they hit a goal at work.
And it's their way of saying, I recognize that this is something I should be both proud of and to celebrate. The other thing I would say is, most parents know how to throw a birthday party and make a celebration, make it fun. Most parents know how to do Thanksgiving and make it into an enjoyable experience. But all the other Jewish holidays, even Christian holidays, Buddhist, Hindu, any of them, parents sometimes get stuck, and we think it's supposed to be serious. We encourage parents to bring the same joy they do to making a birthday party to every holiday celebration, to Shabbat on Friday nights if they want, whenever people are together. We should be celebrating and lifting up life. And when that kid comes home with a good grade, we should be celebrating. You don't need to necessarily pay them or give them something, but it's a moment when they pass. Later on, we have a friend waiting to hear about whether they're going to pass the bar exam. When she passes, we know we're going to celebrate. Well, what about all the little things along the way? Let's learn to celebrate those, to be in the moment, to see the goodness that's there.
I want to thank you both very much for making this a very special, enjoyable session for the audience and for me. And I would like for you, instead of me, for you to give a few last words to leave with our audience today.
I think life is made up of so many opportunities to pause, reflect, count your blessings, and express gratitude for them. And parenting has an abundance of opportunities to lead children down a Jewish spiritual path, or just a spiritual path, where we say thank you. We acknowledge the goodness in our life. We hug each other, and we say, I love you.
I'd love to end with a quote from a book called God Whispers by a friend of ours, Rabbi Karen Kadar. She writes, "Learn from your father and mother about what is important in life. If you want a life filled with love, you must love. If you want goodness for your children, hold them close to your heart and tell them of their beauty and that you love them." We have the ability to bring that love into people's lives, and we hope that our book goes a ways to help people bring that into their lives and into our world.
I think everyone would like to read your book. It's here at the Calabasas Library, and how could they buy a copy?
You can go online to Amazon, to Barnes & Noble, or go to jewishlightspublishing.com, and you can order it there.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank
you, Media Operations, Calabasas Library. And thank you, our audience.